Welcome to the Recovery and Identity Podcast. This is your go-to place for encouragement and empowerment on your journey of healing and transformation. Join us today as we dive into the 12 steps that help you discover your true identity in Christ. And it'll help you embrace healing and find victory in your recovery. Together we'll explore inspiring stories, insights to our trauma, and why we do our unhealthy habits. You can apply faith-driven tools to help you live out an incredible life you are meant to live for. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Recovery and Identity. My name is Steve. I'm a lover and follower of Jesus Christ, and He healed me from codependency. I welcome you here today and hope you're having a wonderful day. Hey, this is for anybody, no matter what step you're on, no matter where you are in your recovery. I don't know if you've even started, but I am super happy that you're here today. Today's episode is going to be about denial and how denial is really a big factor in addiction, in our unhealthy habits. Also, going to connect that denial all the way back to the beginning of the Bible and how that got us to where we are today. But let's go ahead and start with a step today. And again, if you're new to this program and new to the community, Walk Right, A Path to Healing Community, which is a 12-step program that is community-based online that I created. And it is a 12-step program that is tied to your identity in Jesus Christ. It's a little bit different than some of the other programs out there, like Celebrate Recovery, AA, stuff like that. It's still 12 steps. Kind of goes along the same path as some of those, but it's more about your identity in Jesus Christ. And it gets a little bit more into transforming you from the inside out instead of stopping the behavior and then working in. So this community is online. We'll give you more information at the end of the show, but these 12 steps are a part of that community. We have principles, which I'll read here in a second, and we also have Bible studies, devotionals, and just different things to help you on your road to recovery. Now, this is just being launched, so you can go over to the website. I'll give it at the end of the show, find out how to get on and get started in community with helping other people. But let's get started with the step today. And we did step one last time for show number one. And we're just going to jump around today. I'm not going to do step two. We'll just go to a different step. And how about step 4? Forgiveness and grace. Accept God's forgiveness for our mistakes and extend our grace to ourselves and others that we've hurt. And the principle for today is community and accountability. That's principle number 6 that I've created. We engage in authentic community, creating safe spaces where we could share, support, and hold one another accountable in our journeys. So again, it's a step program. You work the steps, you work the principles. There's all kinds of worksheets, and there's all kinds of stuff to help you on your road to recovery. But more important, it's community. It's so you can help and guide other people as well. That's what the kingdom's all about. But today's episode is denial. We're going to talk about denial today and why we all have it, where it comes from, why we do it, and how it really fits into our recovery. So denial is a psychological defense mechanism that helps us avoid facing uncomfortable truths. When it comes to bad habits, denial can often manifest in various ways, and we're going to talk about those various ways. And just a quick story, I was a codependent. I didn't know it. When I was told that I had it, I denied it, didn't want to believe it. But I was married to an addict for 13 years. We battled this. And the problem that we had was I was codependent trying to fix her, and she was an addict taking pain medication, and she denied it the entire time. The 13 years, she never once really admitted that she had a problem. Now she went to an outpatient recovery place for a while. Did never really acknowledge that she had a problem. She denied it all the time. She lied about it. She tried to make me feel that I was crazy. She tried to pit the kids against me, saying that I was crazy. She wasn't doing anything. And I'm trying to pit the kids against her, saying, no, she's taking medicine. You've got to believe me. We tag team in destroying our 2 oldest boys. Denying that I was trying to fix her to make myself feel better. Her denying she had a problem because she felt shameful. And it's just, addiction is just, as you know, is a big mess. And again, as we talked in the last episode, when you talk about addiction or step recovery, most people immediately go to alcohol and drugs. And that's the problem. But there's all kinds of unhealthy, bad habits that people have that can still destroy other people, and you can still deny the fact that you're doing it. Overeating's one of them. Your own anxiety is one of them. Self-control, self-centeredness is one of them. Anger's a big one. Like I had codependency is really big. People just don't know it, don't understand it. There's just all different kinds of unhealthy habits that step work can really help fix. But before we even get to that point, there's the denial wall, the denial barrier that we all put up and that we fight until that wall finally breaks down, until you can't fight anymore. Some people get there quickly. Some people, it takes a little bit longer. And like my ex-wife, she never got there. She never got over that denial phase. To the very end, I'm clean, I'm sober, you're wrong, it's everybody else's fault, I'm completely fine. But let's look at the various ways that denial is in our lives. And one of them is minimalization. So people downplay the severity of their bad habits. For instance, someone might think it's just a little junk food. It's nothing bad. I like to have sweets after I eat, or I like to have sweets throughout the day, etc. Or I'll only have one more drink. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just going to have one more drink. And convincing yourself that their habits aren't a big deal is really a big, big part of denial. I function. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm doing okay. I really don't have a problem. It's not that big of a deal. I've only gained 30 pounds. I can lose 30 pounds if I really wanted to. I don't care. Or, I'm only going through 2 bottles a week. I was going through 3. So I'm doing much better drinking. Or, I only blow up once a month now. And I was hitting my wife. So now I'm just blowing up and belittling her. I'm not hitting her. So, people minimalize their problem. They downplay it because it makes them feel better. Rationalization is another one. This is where individuals create excuses for their behavior. They might say, man, I worked really hard this week. I deserve to eat. Or I worked really hard this week. I deserve to have a drink. This serves to justify your habit. So it makes yourself feeling like you accomplished something. So you can have that. So now you're just rationalizing with yourself. I had a project at work. I worked really hard. I can go ahead and watch pornographic stuff on the computer. I deserve it. I worked hard. I stayed off it all week because I was so busy. It's just, we downplay everything. And that's a form of denial as well. Or how about projection? Sometimes people project their issues onto others. So if I see a flaw in you or people around me, I can point it out in them and not in me. For example, so somebody might criticize somebody else for their poor choice, but you're doing the same thing. But if you could put that onto somebody else, it takes it away from you and makes you feel better. Did you hear about Sally? She got a DWI last night. Oh my gosh, Sally got a DWI. That is horrible. She's got such a drinking problem. Well, you're drinking every single day, but you just don't get in a car. So if you could just project that onto somebody else, they look much worse than you, then you feel so much better about yourself. Or, man, I may yell at my kids, but Bob across the street just got arrested for domestic violence. He hit his wife. I don't hit my wife. I would never hit my wife or kids, but I'm still going to have anger issues because that's a safer place than taking it above to the next level and actually striking somebody. We just play that game to where we just project it onto other people. And it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And how about number 1? This is probably the first one we should have talked about, but avoidance. Some may simply avoid facing their habits altogether, choosing not to think about the consequences. This can lead to a persistent behaviors that there's no acknowledgement of the impact that they have. It's just, I don't care. It's just, plain and simple. I just don't care. I don't care about the consequences. I don't care who I hurt. I am so self-centered and I am so stuck in this addiction that I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in and just do it. And that's where it accelerates. Big time alcoholics are that just get up in the morning and they drink all day, or they come home and drink and drink and drink and drink, and they just don't care about the impact that they're making. They're just so lost in their self-centeredness and their trauma that it's now just a function of their life. That's just what they do. That's a sad place to be. It really is. We want to keep people from getting there. And if you're there, we want to back you up so you can get out of that situation. So the story of Adam and Eve is a perfect example of denial. They attempted to evade responsibility for all their actions. And if we go back to the garden, Adam and Eve were made in the image of Jesus Christ, in the image of God, just like you and I were. The Bible says that we were made before the foundations of the earth. So we knew God, we had a relationship with God before he created the heavens and the earth. And when he created Adam and Eve, just like he created us in that image, he placed them on the earth. And then obviously, I'm going to paraphrase all this. So Eve was sold a big lie by the snake. God said you couldn't eat of that tree in the garden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You could go ahead and eat that. He just doesn't want you to be like him, and you want to be like God, right? So why don't you go ahead and eat that? Oh, okay, I'm going to go ahead and eat that. She convinces Adam, hey, this is really good. Why don't we go ahead and have this fruit? Okay. And then they eat. And then what happens? Well, a little bit of shame came in, right? Because now that they opened up their eyes of the knowledge of good and evil, they thought they were naked. Well, that's a bad thing. So why don't we sew up some fig leaves and put those on? And now that we're naked, we better hide. So when God comes into the garden, now mind you, he knew what happened beforehand. He knew what was going to happen beforehand. But he came into the garden, not all pissed off, not all angry, not kicking tree stumps, not beating up giraffes, not doing anything. He came in and said, hey, Adam, where you at? It's time for our walk. I'm going to go for a walk. Where you at, Adam? Adam was hidden behind a tree or a bush. Why are you hiding, Adam? Well, because I'm naked. Who told you were naked? And that just opened up a whole can of worms. Because what happened? What did Adam say? Well, you know what? That woman you gave me, that chick over there, that girl, it's all her fault. She did it. She made me do it. And then what Eve do? Oh, it was the snake. If you wouldn't have put that snake in here, the snake made me do it. Denial right off from the get-go. So if Adam and Eve were created in the image of God, took a bite of the fruit, death came into the picture, right? That's what happened. Sin came into the picture. Now, most people, when they think of sin, they think of bad behaviors. They think of behavior modification. So when I say you're a sinner, most people think, well, you do bad things. Okay, somewhat. But what that really means is, you know what? You were created into the image of God. Sin means you're missing the mark. You're missing the mark on who you were created to really be. So if I was created in the image of Jesus Christ and I'm not loving and I'm doing things that are self-centered and I'm doing things that are hurting other people, that's missing a mark on who I was created to be. So if I was created to be like Jesus Christ, I'm not doing things that Jesus Christ did, not because I have to, because I was made that way. I'm missing the mark and I'm sinning. That's what sin means. That's what it is. Just because you drink, it's a sin, right? Or just because you overeat, it's a sin. If you smoke cigarettes, it's a sin. You've heard it all in religious churches growing up that it's a sin. You've got to stop the sin. The sin is bad. The sin is bad. No, you got to stop being what Adam and Eve were, and you need to start being who you're created to be, Jesus Christ. Because just a quick little Bible lesson here. When Adam and Eve fell, we all fell under that curse. We all fell under what Adam and Eve became, right? But when Jesus came and died upon the cross, all that was reconciled. We were reconciled back to Jesus Christ. We were reconciled back to God. He did that on the cross. It was all done through the blood. That's what the sacrificial blood was for. So now we are reconciled back to the image we were before the foundations of the earth. We are now made in the image of Jesus Christ. All that was reconciled. Now we just have to believe it. Now we have to live it. Now we have to understand it. And we have to have that relationship to understand it. So that's all the gospel is in the New Testament is, you're not in the old, you're in the new. You're reborn. You're all this stuff about renewal, all this stuff about reconciliation, all this stuff about, you take off the old Adam and put on the new Adam, which is Christ. All that in there. So that's all I'll say about that. But so when they sinned in the garden, it wasn't a behavior modification. They weren't smoking in the garden. They didn't drink in the garden. They didn't eat the fruit and started overeating in the garden. They didn't take the fruit and start shooting a needle in the arm. What did they do? Well, number one, they disobeyed what God said. And then number two, it was denial. And then they had shame. That's what's missing the mark. That's what happened. Now, because they missed the mark, and let's get this real important now, because they now feel less than, because that came into the picture. The world has fallen. Things are falling apart now that Adam and Eve took a bite of the fruit, and they now feel less than. They now feel less than they were. And then they tried to become something they were already created to be. They tried to strive to be what they already were, and it didn't work out. That's the sin. That's what sin is. They now have missed the mark of who they created to be, who they were created to be. That's carried over. So now, in my natural self, I have this self-doubt and I have this insecurity that I'm not good enough. Everybody has it in some sort or some fashion. And then put on top of it a generation of fathers and mothers raising kids and just living in that self-centeredness, living in that insecurity. It's just passed on and just passed on and just passed on and just passed on. My father loved me how he knew how to. My mother loved me how she knew, but my mother abandoned me at a young age, so I have that. My father ended up becoming an alcoholic off and on throughout my life, and I had to deal with that. So now I already have a natural, I'm not good enough. Well, now just triple that with, now my mother left me. I'm not good enough. She doesn't want me. My father thinks I'm a piece of crap, yells at me all the time. He doesn't want me. He doesn't think I'm good enough. So that's how all this transpires. That's how all this continues to just snowball. And that's where all these sin modifications come from. Because I want to escape the pain I had of being molested as a young child. So I'm going to eat cheeseburgers because it makes me feel better. I'm going to go ahead and take drugs because I was sexually abused or I was raped, because that makes me escape that pain. I'm going to go ahead and just be angry at everybody because I don't know how to deal with the emotions I have. So anger is what I go to instead of anything else. Or I don't feel good enough in relationships and I'm insecure in my relationships. So I watch pornographic material to make me feel better and get what I need to get, because I don't feel I'm going to get that from a female or a male. So you can see where all this just starts to snowball and all this just starts to come together. And that's where we get these issues. That's where these problems come from. And then we're trying to mix it in with, maybe you come to know the Lord. Maybe you've been going to church. Maybe you grew up going to church and you still have all these issues. So now you view God as you do your parents, and you're traumatized by your parents or your family somehow. And now you feel God is the same way. He tolerates me. He thinks I'm okay. But thank God Jesus came along, because he's going to sneak me in the back door because I smell like poo-poo. We just go through Christianity feeling that way too. Where's the transformation? Where's the freedom? Where does all that come from? And we're going to get there. And 12 steps in your identity will help you get there. Basically, that's where we are today. And that's why you may have a problem today. And that's why I had an issue. And that's why a lot of people that are addicted to something or have an unhealthy habit started with some kind of less than feeling, some kind of trauma. A lot of people that I talk to rarely just said, hey, I became an alcoholic. I drank. Or hey, I just overate because I just liked food. Usually there's an underlying issue. Abandonment, molestation, sexual abuse, verbal abuse. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that trigger people to do different things to cover and mask up that pain. And I'm here to tell you, Jesus Christ would love for you to stop that. But here at Walk Right, A Path to Healing, we don't yell at you to stop your behavior. We yell at you to look at the inside and just surrender and let God transform you on the inside. And eventually you'll not want to do that behavior. And I can testify to that. I can testify that he works on you and he will transform you. And we'll get there. We'll get there together in the community. But let's talk about strategies that can help you moving forward. How about self-reflection and prayer? How about you sit down and actually speak to God about how you feel? And why don't you actually take the time and just self-reflect and say, you know, what are my bad habits? And Father, is there anything that is keeping me from my true identity that you created me to be? Will you let me know those? And most of the time you do know those. The big ones. I knew codependency. I knew anger. I knew I had that stuff. And then he'll start bringing up little things, the self-centeredness, and you start changing the way you look at things and start really seeing that, man, what I'm doing, I don't feel shameful about. I just am now opened to what God sees. Journaling about your habits and journaling about how you feel is a great way to do this self-reflection in prayer. I journal all the time. I try to do it daily. I'll be honest, I don't hit it every single day, but for the most part I do. Journaling is a great way to get the feelings out of how you feel. And journaling is a great way for God to communicate with you. Because I promise you, if you start writing down stuff and then you ask him stuff, he'll answer. And he will start to communicate with you. And he will start to have that loving relationship and that communication to start to transform you. How about identity practices? So practicing mindfulness encourages individuals to stay present and aware of their thoughts and feelings. I like to do this, and I did this for a long time. If I was driving down the road and somebody cut me off in traffic, you get that self-centeredness comes up real quick when you do that. That's where road rage comes from, that anger and everything else. But somebody cuts you off and it's like, oh, and you just, oh my gosh, you're just a bleep, bleep, bleep. And that just comes up naturally, right? When I started to feel stuff like that, or if I was standing in line and saw somebody that just kind of irritated me, I immediately stopped. And I said, Father, I don't like the way I'm feeling right now. I know this is not part of the true identity who you created me to be. Would you help me remove these feelings that I'm having that are not part of my identity? And once you start doing that, and once you start saying, Father, I don't like the way that person looked. I don't like the way they acted. I don't like the way that I felt for feeling that way. Let me see people how you see people. Let me see the world as you see the world. And once you start looking at people through the lens of Jesus Christ and how God views people, man, your life will change. And you won't get all upset in traffic. You'll love the person that you look at. When you look at a homeless person, you won't be like, oh, there's just a bum and, why did they get there? They're just always begging for money and blah, blah. Your heart will change. And I say all these things because I thought all these things before. And now you start loving the homeless. And it doesn't mean you have to give them money every time you see them. And there's scam artists out there. I get all that. But once you start looking at everybody through the lens of Jesus Christ, that's love, and that's light, and that's living in the kingdom. And that's a long way to go through your transformation. I know I'm getting way ahead of the game here, but I'm just saying that there's hope and there's victory on the other side of all this. But first, we got to get over the denial. How about seeking honest feedback? Sometimes when people tell us what we don't want to hear is the best thing for us. If you can actually sit down and go to your spouse, hey, do you really think I have a problem? Or what things do you think are impacting our family that I should probably stop doing? When you can sit down at that point without getting mad and without blowing up or even creating more denial, that will help you get there. Encouraging listeners to seek feedback from trusted friends, family, just an outside perspective. We want to deny it, but it's actually good for us. Others may see habits more clearly than we do to help maybe open up a way for us to start healing and transitioning out of that unhealthy habit. And how about accountability partners? Accountability partners are really good in recovery. That's why we have the community, right? That's why I created the community, the 12-step program, the community for everybody to get on, to be accountable to everybody else. Finding a buddy to support them is great in recovery. Sharing goals with each other. Somebody who can check in on your progress when you're in community, when you can go there every single day and share and be encouraged and be loved, and then love and encourage somebody else. That's a great community. And in this community, you'll have that every single day to latch onto somebody, to connect with people, to express your feelings, to just have an outlet. Anytime you want, 24/7, it's there for you. So accountability partners are great to pick up in recovery. And it's great to have an accountability partner to start letting the denial fall away. Because once somebody says, hey man, you shouldn't be doing that, and you told me to tell you when I think you're doing wrong, and what you just told me is wrong, you can't deny it. And it's going to help you open up and be more truthful and honest with yourself. Sometimes people need therapy or counseling. I went to a Christian counselor for about 7 years, and that through him, he helped me release a lot of that pain. He helped me release a lot of the things I did with my codependency and set me on this path of transformation. And sometimes people need that. Sometimes they don't. And I am also a Christian coach. I help people get unstuck from stuff like that. That's just something that I now do, that now that I'm free and now that I have victory, it's something I want to do to help other people. And then, of course, the number one thing, celebrate your wins. Praise God for the wins. You know, if you went from eating or drinking, overeating, over drinking from 7 days a week down to 5, man, celebrate that win. Don't think you're a failure because you didn't get the 3 and you wanted to get the 3. You got 1 day or 2 days less. Those are the small things. We always try to tend on I've got an issue, I want to be fixed. So we're wrecked all the way in between until the end. No, each time you chip away at that block in front of you, you have a victory, you have a win. And those are the things that you need to praise God with, you need to celebrate yourself with. Now, don't go celebrate it with the habit that you're doing. I'm just kidding. But actually, it's pretty funny. But celebrate your small wins. Make sure that it all goes together. So denial. Denial is a huge part of unhealthy habits. Denial is something that we all need to get over. Denial is something that's hard to get over, but you can get over it, and you will get over it. If you are just coming into recovery or you're just kind of checking it out, 12 steps are okay. You don't need to deny the fact any longer. Just start surrendering. It's one of the steps. Just start surrendering and just start believing that God can transform you with the help of other people. It's hard to do it alone. We all need to do this together and facing challenges and issues than trying to face them all alone and trying to fix yourself by yourself. So I hope you come back. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, would you do me a favor? Would you please like, subscribe, maybe share it with somebody? It really helps me out. And plus, you'll never miss another episode. Also, again, if you want to check out the online community, you could go to www.walkrightministries.com. That's our ministry webpage that has all the information on my speaking engagements, the coaching, the recovery community, and about this podcast and another podcast that I do. So don't deny any longer and go get the help that you need. If you're sitting there right now going, well, I don't need any help, I can help you. I'm just kidding. I want to thank you so much again for watching or listening, however you're doing it. But thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. God bless. Have a wonderful day.